Hi, everyone, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast, which is a go to space for innovation or innovative strategies and actionable advice to help small and medium sized businesses thrive. I'm your host, Maheen, and today we are delving into the transformative power of project management for SMBs. Our special guest is Hussain Bandukwala, a global thought leader in project management and the CEO of Parwaaz Consulting. With over 20 years of experience, Hussain specializes in empowering SMBs to streamline operations, improve profitability, and drive growth through effective project management. He's a two-time PMO Influencer of the Year finalist and a LinkedIn learning instructor whose courses have helped over 160,000 learners. So join us as we uncover Hussein's expert insights and learn how project management can be the catalyst for your business success. Hussein, welcome to the Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Maheen. Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Very pleased to have you with us now, Hussein. Let's kind of open our discussion by, by discussing the profitability edge, because for many SMBs, tight profit margins, they demand smarter ways to manage work, manage resources. So let's explore how project management can directly influence profitability. Hussein, many SMBs, they operate with limited budgets. How can effective work and project management help improve profitability?
That's a great question, Maheen. If you just think of profitability and if you think of it mathematically, it's an equation which is revenue minus expenses
Mhm.
divided by revenue, right? And so in order for you to be able to improve profitability, you either need to increase your revenue or decrease your expenses or both. And project management can do just that for you, right? So if you go ahead and manage projects well, making sure that your expenses are managed, your resources are not spending more time than they should, they're not spending more energy and effort and therefore more money in what they should, your expenses get reduced. When you make sure that when you're managing projects, you're assigning the right people to the right tasks at the right time, so you have the best people that you have available to do the work instead of just someone who's available. And so with that, again, your expenses can be managed. And again, you manage or you have projects for a reason. It's either to launch a new product or create a new service or having a new marketing strategy or a new pricing strategy, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And the reason for that is it can be either, regulatory or most likely revenue generating. So the more and better you can manage that project well, the faster you can start realizing the revenue as well and helps improve your profitability. So the ticket for small business owners to really focus on driving the profitability is to look internally and see, well, how can they better manage the work? And that is what project management is all about.
That's enlightening, Hassan. I mean, it's great to hear how strategic planning and efficient processes they can drive tangible financial outcomes. But what are the initial steps that SME owners can take to pinpoint inefficiencies in their work processes that might be draining their profits?
I've seen a lot of small business owners sort of get mired with chaos. And the reason for that is simply a lot of the things that they have going on are only inside their mind or inside the minds of their people. The first thing that they can do is just look at what current processes that they have and map them to see what are the bottlenecks that they might be experiencing. So for instance, they could look at why a certain project exceeded budget and see maybe the vendor selection was inefficient, or maybe they spent more time on a couple of tasks than they should have. One other thing that they can do is to gather inputs from teams to uncover what are the recurring delays or tasks that are redundant. Maybe two people are doing the same thing at the same time. Again, wasted energy right there. You could also take a bit of an introspective look and analyze some of the projects that you've done in the past and identify certain patterns of missed deadlines or cost overruns, which can be very revealing for you as well. So again, it doesn't have to be extremely fancy. Just take a look at what you've done in the past or what you're looking at, how you run things today, map them up simply and see what are the ways that you can find things to become more smoother in terms of either reducing time or cost.
Fantastic insights, Hussein. I mean, identifying inefficiencies and addressing them is a decisive first step. And listeners, Did you know that improving your work management processes, it can reduce operational chaos and really help you and your team achieve more without stress? So streamlining work isn't just for big corporations, it's essential for every SMB. So now let's dive into how SMBs can bridge the gap between their long-term strategies and their everyday operations, because even the best strategies, they can only fall flat with proper execution. So let's discuss how SMBs can connect their long-term vision with daily operations, because then SMBs, they often struggle, we know that, to translate big picture goals into actionable tasks. What practical advice would you give to help them bridge this gap?
I think that one of the things that I see often is that you have the SMB owners or the executives. If you have a C-suite or a leadership suite within the SMBs, they come up with these nice fancy goals for the year, for the quarter, for the month, whatever have you, and then they sort of you know pass it over the wall over to the people who are executing it
Mhm.
without actually having translated those goals into actions, right? So the way it should really happen is they've defined the goals. Now work with the team that is actually going to do the work and break those down into objectives, goals into objectives, objectives into milestones, then milestones into activities and tasks. Those
Mhm.
activities and tasks then have owners, then have timelines, and then that is the foundation for creating a strong project plan. Oftentimes, I also see goals getting translated into objectives into projects, and then projects into milestones, activities, and tasks. And then, people are assigned to relevant projects, relevant tasks, and activities. And then with a proper check-in to make sure how things are aligned to that and how we can adopt the changes are extremely important. Like, let me give an example, right? One thing is increasing sales. Great. Increasing sales is a great goal. But
Mhm.
how do you turn increasing sales into generate 10 new leads per week is a more defined milestone and focus. And then what do you need to do to then generate those 10 leads per week? How many people
Right.
do you need to do an outreach to? Is it, which channel are you focusing on? And so as you can see, you're taking something very vague, making it a specific goal, and then translating that goal into specific tasks and actions. And then you assign people them. Because in that way, uh, with that communication in place, you are making sure that the roles and responsibilities are aptly assigned and there are no surprises at the end, right? So that is one of the things that I see, in missing in small businesses as well as corporates. It really doesn't matter, but I've definitely seen that happen across.
That's an excellent perspective, Hassan. I mean, it's empowering to see how small steps they can bring an entire business closer to its larger goals. What are some early signs that SMB's strategic initiatives fail to produce actionable results, and how can they adjust it?
So, missing deadlines is a very key sign that something is amiss. And it could be a reason because of a lack of clarity, lack of expectation setting, confusion about priorities, be assigned to multiple things at the same time can be an area which can be challenging. You can
Mhm.
certainly get on top of that by understanding, number one, what is it that really needs to be done? Who should be doing it, by when should it be done by, and make sure that the person who is doing it has that capacity to be able to hit that timeline, hit that goal. If they're already occupied on five other things and they can't hit that, there's no point, right? So
Mhm.
missing of the deadlines is a very key critical component that I see as an early sign where people are start missing the goals that they have, right? And so you want to make sure that there is constant alignment between you and the people doing the work. And if any reprioritization needs to happen, then that is happening in collaboration as well.
That's excellent advice. I mean, aligning strategy with execution, it's highly effective approach. And to our listeners, efficient project management not only drives profitability, but it also ensures that your team stays aligned and focused on what truly matters. So, empowering your business starts with taking control of your workflow. Really. Up next, Sen, we'll explore how choosing the right tools can amplify your project management efforts, because as SMBs grow, basic tools, they often fail to meet their needs. Um, So we'd love to uncover how businesses can select and implement the right tools to thrive. Because for SMBs still relying on spreadsheets or basic tools, what are the signs that it's time to upgrade to a more robust work management solution?
One of the questions the question that you asked me earlier about, and I mentioned missed deadlines was an opportunity, was an area where you saw signs for people for things falling down through the cracks. That is a potential early sign that people are either not using the tools right that they have, or the tools have been outgrown, right? And
Mhm.
especially with a team that is growing, it becomes, and if you start having more and more projects, more and more tasks and activities that need to be managed, it becomes every tool will have a limitation. So use the tools that you have, even if it's basic tools or spreadsheets, to the point where you feel that it is actually now hindering your productivity, hindering your efficiency and effectiveness, and that therefore it's time to do an upgrade, right?
Mhm.
And so when you have so many people working together, real-time collaboration is an often need. When you have so many tasks going on, you would love to have a dashboard or report that says what's on track, what's off track, so you can just focus on the items that are off track. Or you may have a lot of discussion around certain needs of a project or requirements, and you have like massive email chains going on, and that again is a shout out for, hey, it'd be great to have a collaboration tool out here, right? So when you start outgrowing the tools that you have, that's a sign that you need to go ahead and get a better solution. And again, looking at what possible solutions out there, there are work management tools, there are task management tools, and there are project management tools, right?
Mhm.
Many tools out there like Asana and Monday.com, Trello do hit upon all of these categories, but have some limitations. Some will have greater focus on collaboration. Some of will have greater focusing on dashboards and reportings. And so, depending on what your needs are as a small business, you should be looking at those tools accordingly.
No, tools are, powerful enablers, and but let's not forget the role of team collaboration in driving success. And we'd love to explore that next. But before that, Hussein, your response was spot on. It's reassuring to know that transitioning to advanced tools doesn't have to be a daunting task. Now, talking about teams are the driving force behind any successful SMB, and it's key to empower them with the right tools and frameworks. So, Hussein, how does project management improve collaboration and accountability within the SMB teams?
So when project management is done right, everybody knows what needs to be done, who needs to do it, when does it need to be done by, and what are the corresponding dependencies. At the same time, there's highlights on possible risks and issues that people can manage. Project management is not a checklist of things that need to be done. It's a choreographed sequence of events,
Mhm.
right? And in order for you to appreciate that, you need to realize, go out from the silo of what you have to do and look at what are the things that are impacting what you do, and what are the things that will get impacted by what you do.
Mm.
But having that clarity of role and purpose in mind, you can focus on your tasks accordingly. And when things do get off the rails, and believe me, they will, because that's how things just generally happen. They never happen, fall into place. Things never happen by chance. You have to take action on it. And so when do things do go off the rail, you do know then who you need to reach out to get them back on track, right? So that collaboration makes sure everybody's running on the same playbook, and based on everybody working together when they need to, and staying in their own lanes when they need to, can definitely make sure that people are not stepping on each other's toes. It helps improve efficiency, and definitely improve productivity as well.
That's a powerful insight, Hussein. I mean, hearing how aligned teams can deliver outstanding results and foster a better work environment. But can you share a simple framework that SME leaders can implement to align their teams with business objectives a bit better?
So you can think of as, like I mentioned earlier, take objectives break them down into projects, projects into activities, activities into roles, and for those activities, keep a track of, are you hitting, are you on time, are you off track? It's a very simple framework where you can use, for instance, if you were supposed to do something in 5 days, if you're talking and reviewing results on the third day, is that on track? Are you about 66% of the way done? If not, you're probably lagging behind. What is the reason for that? What can you do to help? Having mechanisms like daily check-ins or stand-ups can be very helpful in having a quick check-in to a quick meetup to see what can be done to make sure things can be put back on track. If there are any dependencies that are causing the delays, then raising them up proactively can also be significantly helpful in making things go smoothly. So again, it doesn't have to be very complex. Simple framework again is breaking down the piece of work to a point where it can be identified and assigned to a single person, and then let that person run with it.
That's a wonderful advice, Hussain. When teams are empowered, businesses can achieve incredible outcomes. So that was very well said. Now, listeners, choosing the right tools for your work management, it can transform how your business operates, really improving project delivery and team collaboration. And every step toward better organization is a step towards greater success. Um, so now let's tackle some challenges that SMBs face in project management, because challenges in project management, they are inevitable, right? But there are also growth opportunities. So let's discuss how SMBs can navigate these hurdles. Hussein, what are some common project management challenges that SMBs face, and how can they address them effectively?
One of the biggest challenges that I see is that the definition of done isn't defined. So
Mhm.
the scope of work is not very clear. When that happens, then we have a term called scope creep that occurs, which is the scope expands and more things need to be done as part of it. So for instance, if you're creating a project that is about updating the page of a website, right? What are the text that needs to go in it? What are the buttons? What are the colors of the buttons? What should those buttons do? These are all the requirements. If they're not defined upfront, then the person doing the work in terms of developing the page can do whatever they think. And then when you show it to the person who asked for it, oh, sorry, why don't you go ahead and shift this here, move this here? I don't want this content, make this bold, make this italicized, change the color, make the functionality different, make the error message different. And that leads to a constant churn of work that could be avoided if only the time was taken initially to define what done was, right? So scope creep is one of the biggest things that I see. And one of the reasons for that is that businesses don't take the time to plan upfront in terms of what the defined requirements are, what does done look like, what does success look like, and then how should you go about planning that to convert those requirements into activities and assigning them to the right people. That's number one. The other thing is that I have also seen that people also get assigned activities based on the fact that or assigned projects rather, that based on if they have knowledge about it, but they have no idea how to manage that work, right? And when you start piling in more and more of that, they get overloaded with work and they just don't know when to say, hey, let's stop it. I can't take enough.
Right.
Because they're taking up so much, they can't do any of the work assigned to them, the required expectations, right? And that essentially is going from resource overloading and unclear priorities. And they can be addressed by, again, planning upfront. When you're planning upfront, you are not only identifying the activities, but people who are supposed to be doing the work and making sure that they have the capacity to do it in that required time frame.
That's such a practical advice, Susan. It's empowering to know that even the most demanding challenges, they can be addressed with such a proactive approach. Hussein, as we wrap up, what's that one final piece of advice you'd like to share with SMB owners who are striving to optimize their project management practices?
So project management is a mindset. and it's a key skill that all resources that have been asked to run projects have. You don't necessarily need to have, trained project managers in place. You don't need to have project management titles. But the reality is that you are running projects today, whether you call them projects, whether you call them activities, whether you call them goals, whether you call them initiatives, whether you call them programs, they're projects, right? It has a start date, it has an end date with a unique outcome or output or service. So treat that in that discipline as an investment in your business, not an overhead cost. And the way you can do it is you can think big but start small. Provide initial fundamental training for mindset for the people running the projects. Maybe if not the entire team, a couple of people. Whatever tools that you're using, make sure that you start using them to its maximum efficiency. You don't necessarily need to go and get a brand new tool. Whatever it is that you're using, whether it's a spreadsheet, whether it's a basic fundamental tool, make sure that you are using it. Other people on your team are using it. You're using it consistently. And then finally, only if I would say, if anybody wants to take one thing from this entire session, it is this: focus on your planning. Your projects will not happen by chance, right? When you go ahead and plan properly, make sure you define what done is. People know what activities that they need to do and when they need to finish them by. They will feel empowered to run with that and come and ask for help when they need to.
Thank you so much, Hussain, for joining us today and sharing your wealth of knowledge, your insights on project management. I mean, they have truly inspired and empowered our listeners, I'm sure, to take on actionable steps towards SMB success. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And listeners, what an enlightening discussion. Today, we explored how project management can enhance profitability, bridge strategy with execution, empower teams, and overcome challenges for SMEs. Again, a heartfelt thank you to Hussain for taking the time to join us and for sharing his expertise so generously. His contributions, they have provided invaluable guidance to our audience. And we'd also like to extend our thanks to our sponsors, RBC, UPS, Constant Contact, IAG, and Google for their continued support. Please visit our website, CanadianSME.ca, to subscribe for more insights and actionable strategies. Until next time, this is your host, Maheen, wishing you success in all of your entrepreneurial endeavors. Take care, and we'll see you soon.